now.
Okay.
Um, okay, there it goes. It should be recording.
Okay.
All right, well, I'm just gonna start the intro
All right.
right about now.
Here we go.
Hey everyone, it's Nugentino here. I'm here with my good friend Scott, and we're gonna review Shadow of a Doubt, Alfred Hitchcock's 1943 film. So this is gonna be the beginning of maybe like a little thing we're gonna call the 40s Project. Hopefully, maybe in the future we'll get to review some more 40s movies. In the past, me and you did a thing called 50s from the 50s. So
Yes.
that's kind of what we're emulating here. I'm not going to guarantee we'll review 40s movies, but hopefully we'll be review some more.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway. So this movie is Alfred Hitchcock's 1943 film. Do you want to talk about why you were interested in watching it?
Me? Why? What interested? What interested me?
Yeah,
Was it on our list?
I think it probably was.
I don't. I don't know that I even saw it on the list when my interest was piqued. The I was listening to an interview with Guillermo del Toro, famous director of such
Mhm.
films as Kronos and Shape of Water, things like that. And was he was actually talking about the film Night of the Hunter, and the the director of that film, whose name I want to say is Charles Lofton, but I might be wrong. He
Yeah,
was
good.
a famous British person.
Mm-hmm.
And Guillermo del Toro was just talking about how this British guy was able to come and make an amazing film that's so quintessentially American, and he
Yeah.
likened it to Shadow of a Doubt, which is kind of the same situation. A
Mm-hmm.
British guy coming to America and making a quintessential, just small town America type film, which kind of a fish out of water type thing. And so I really love Night of the Hunter, so I decided I should watch this too.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad we did. The first thing that when the movie first came to my attention, it was like from watching Stoker, which is kind of like a loose remake of it in a way. It's not like a direct, like it's a lot different, but it uses the same concept of an uncle coming to town into this
Yeah,
girl's life, and I think his name is Uncle Charlie. It might be
I
different.
think it is.
Yeah,
I think it
but it's
is.
definitely very connected to Shadow of a Doubt. But
And I'm glad you said that because I noticed that as well, but it escaped me until you reminded me of that. Um, in I, f- I was hoping I was gonna be able to spring that on you, and you'd be like, "Wow, I never realized the connection." But then, like when I hear you say it out loud, it's an obvious connection. Like anybody who's seen both films should be like, "Yep, okay, I get it."
well, I just remember hearing about a lot about that when the movie came out or when Stoker came out.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, I had never seen it and had not seen many Alfred Hitchcock movies. But
Right.
even now, I haven't seen that many. I've seen about like seven, which is, I guess, the okay amount. But he's made like 50 movies. So
Ah, well, when I said that I had probably seen them all, was referring to like his, his big ones, the ones that everybody knows. They're and then there's even a classic photograph of him with like a stack of all the scripts that
mhm.
all his films, and he's sitting there trying to hold it up, you know. And I think I definitely haven't seen them all, and I probably haven't even seen as many as you. I haven't seen Rope. I haven't seen Rebecca. Those are just two that come to mind. Suspicion, is that Alfred Hitchcock?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't
And
seen
like
those either. But
Dial
yeah,
M for Murder, haven't seen that either.
I've just seen. I'm gonna try to go through. I've seen Psycho. I've seen Vertigo. I've seen North by Northwest. I've seen Shadow of a Doubt. I've
Yeah.
seen the man who wasn't, or the man who knew too much,
Oh yeah.
and there's two I'm forgetting. Oh, I've seen the Birds and Rear Window. Those are the ones I've seen. Well, we watched Rear Window together.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah. the there's a few of those that you named that I hadn't seen, but for the most part, we're in the same ballpark. And you know, there's like you said, there's so many. You could just go
Mhm.
on, and they're not all, they're not all knock it out of the park type things. But I feel
Yeah,
like if you watch a Hitchcock movie, at the very least, you're going to there's going to be an awesome story.
yeah,
It's going to be a really good story.
yeah, definitely. Well, he was known as the master of suspense, and in this movie, I think he plays with suspense like in an interesting way. Like, it's not. I thought he was a little bit more reserved in how he portrayed suspense. Like, I didn't see him doing too much with the camera or with like the filmmaking techniques that was necessarily suspenseful. But to me, it was like all in the writing and just like you build up this character of Uncle Charlie and you build up this character of Charlie, the daughter or the main character of the movie,
Hmm.
and she's so innocent and she's so naive and like wants to like love this guy,
Hmm.
and just to have her innocence kind of broken throughout the course of the movie, I thought was really interesting. And then there's natural suspense built and how that's going to come out to the family and stuff like that
Hmm.
about who this man really is. But like, just to say right off the bat, I love the movie. On Letterboxd, I'm on Letterboxd. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5, and yeah, I liked it a lot. It's not. I mean, it probably isn't the upper echelon of Hitchcock stuff for me,
Yeah.
but yeah, and it stars Joseph Cotten, who I'm a big fan of.
Yes.
I thought I wrote in my review on Letterboxd. I think this would make a perfect like double feature with Gaslight
Oh yeah.
because yeah, because it's sort of the same thing happening, or not exactly the same, but like kind of a criminal man like telling a woman that what she thinks is happening isn't really happening and
Hmm.
manipulating her in that way. But it's
Yeah.
interesting because Joseph Cotton's the villain here, and in Gaslight he's actually like the good detective guy.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I do this strange thing in my head where I put um like I place Joseph Cotton in my mind. I place him primarily like as a 50s actor.
hmm
But now it was just like a mistake in my mind, but really like his these these bigger roles that he had, they came in the 40s,
yeah,
and it Citizen Kane and Gaslight and Shadow of a Doubt, and it for some reason I always pictured him, and we even watched 50 movies from the 50s, and I was still like, oh yeah, Joseph Cotton, yeah, he's a 50s actor, but it's just a
yeah,
mistake on my. But I agree with the. I think that would be a cool double feature.
yeah,
The
for sure.
uh, there's so much interesting trivia about the film, the making of it, and things like that. Like I think I kept everything I read about it and heard about it. Everyone just kept saying that Hitchcock, this was one of his favorite films of his,
Yeah,
and that he really enjoyed it, and he was always very fond of it. And I just thought, like, when I think about all of his movies that I've seen, I wouldn't pick this as my favorite, but I didn't make it, and so I wondered, like, why did he choose it as his favorite? And I think from what it sounds like, I think part of it is that has to do with how, he was a newbie in
mhm.
America, and they decided they would find a small town within reasonable driving distance of LA to shoot this film. Instead of doing studio work, they were going to go into an actual small town and use the
Yeah,
landscape and the architecture to make this film. And I think I sound when he talks about it, and even when his daughter talks about it, it sounds like he got a lot of enjoyment out of that because he just got this like an Americana experience out of just being able to hang out there. It was in Santa Rosa, California,
mhm.
and I think it was kind of his. He just got introduced to small town America, and I think he loved it, and he loved being in a real place. And when you hear the actors interviewed, they loved it too. Like they love being in an actual house. They said just even being able to go through an actual front door instead of a front door on a set affected their acting in a very positive way. And
Yeah,
so, it wouldn't be my favorite. but it was his favorite, and I can see why. But do you? My my question is, you know, do you? You were talking earlier about how like young Charlie, she wants to love her uncle. She's just like there. There seemed to be this like weird, even just like in Stoker, this weird like more than familial, more than relative love between them when they would have these moments alone. I mean, were you
Definitely.
picking up on anything like that? And did you
Yeah.
how do you explain those feelings? Because I feel like it's pretty it kind of sticks out.
I don't know. I think it's just naturally. I mean, it's a little strange, like you're saying, but like I definitely picked up on it too. But like, I think it's like her coming of age story, and she's seeing this man come into her life who's just like her uncle. It's still weird, but like I mean, she doesn't know him. He's coming out of nowhere. So I
Hmm.
feel like naturally she might have some like sort of buried like romantic feelings at the beginning, and then some of that like because she's like looking for like a man to be with because she starts like flirting with that like detective guy and like wants to like go on a date with him and then it's like super
Hmm.
disappointed when that's not what it is.
Right.
But yeah, but like I definitely think that stuff is there, but I think it adds to like sort of like a creepy atmosphere without like directly saying anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've heard this movie compared a lot to like Blue Velvet, which I think is interesting because when you're talking about like the small town like nature of it all, like Blue Velvet's a movie about like a perfect town and like a kid, not a kid, but like a teenager who like finds something like very creepy like buried underneath. And I
Yeah.
think this movie was like a really cool version of that, like
Hmm.
early on, like probably the first, not the very first, but like an early movie to do that kind of
Yeah.
story. And I really enjoyed it.
And
But
he loved that. He loved injecting like injecting just normal seemingly normal life with something totally insane.
yeah,
And there the the comparison to Blue Velvet is good because I it it's almost but instead of like uncovering something underneath the facade of this town, it's almost like, the devil comes to town. We have this quaint, innocent, wholesome place that we're living, and you know even with the image of the train coming that's bringing Uncle Charlie, like it's just blowing copious amounts of black smoke, all over the town, kind of like a signal that
yeah,
evil has showed up in your town.
yeah,
Um, and I, the the themes and the ideas and the messages, they're readable, and you see them on screen, and they you know he his imagery, his way of conveying to us his message, and these, his the little pieces of symbolism he uses, like the smoke and things like that. I never really felt like I never really felt suspense when I watched this, and I didn't feel, and I watched it on a computer screen. I mean, that doesn't do much for the viewing experience, but I never, I never felt terror. I never felt frightened. I never felt suspense like I have in so many other movies that he's made that I've seen. And I'm not sure why, but for me, this one, it kind of just like you know, I wasn't scared that he was gonna kill her after she found out, or anything like that. I was just kind of like along for the ride. Like I was entertained. But like North by Northwest, I'm like on the edge of my seat, you know,
yeah,
in Vertigo, I'm
mm,
like we're on a, this is a freaking crazy adventure. It's twists and turns and blah blah blah. And for this one, I was just kind of sitting back and just watching it unfold.
yeah. I can definitely see that, and because I do think the suspense is a lot lighter in this, but
Yeah,
I did find it suspenseful at points. But I
right,
could see how you could have just you could just kind of like let it flow past you and like just take it for what it is. It's not like extremely suspenseful, but
right.
yeah, I can see what you mean.
Do you? Do you think that the how do I put this? Do you think it's possible that young Charlie and her character, her love for her uncle was in some ways like a tied into like some kind of self love and like self esteem? Because she keeps like alluding to how like they're not just uncle and niece, like they're connected, like we have the same name, like and we're twins, so it's like I feel like she kind of feels like they both deserve love and adoration or something
Yeah.
because they're so alike and things. Did you pick up on anything like that?
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And I've read it in like in reviews and stuff, like how people thought like it was sort of like they're symbolically like two sides of like the same coin, or like
Mm-hmm.
when she's seeing the evil in him, like it sort of like breaks open like her whole idea of like her whole family and herself, and like the way she looks at the world.
Right.
And so I like that. Like thematically, I thought all that stuff is like sort of the most interesting that I've seen in any Hitchcock movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I can definitely see what you're saying.
And to me it was almost like they show when they show up, she's so like wanting to be, you know, connected to him that way, aligning herself with him because she looks up to him so much, and they, aligning herself with him to where his praise becomes my praise because we're so much alike. And so when they first meet, we're like, these people are the opposite. This dude's evil, this girl's innocent, loves her family, blah blah blah. But then he gives us those opposite those opposite characteristics. They appear in each other, in it, like the good in Joseph Cotton's character appears, and the evil, potential for evil, appears in, the young Charlie character. I feel like when they're out on the balcony, when and she's like, when are you leaving? He's like,
Yeah,
I'm not leaving, I'm gonna stay. She's like, you need to leave or I'm gonna kill you myself.
that's what I was gonna
you
bring
know
up. That's where you start seeing like different characteristics in her.
right. and
But
but then the good but then on the reverse of that, I think, is when he announces that he's leaving and he sees his sister so brokenhearted, you know, and he doesn't have, I think the emotion really is that I don't think, if you look at the shot, like when she's describing, when her mother is all upset and talking about, Charlie moved away and I got married and we grew apart and you know how life is and blah blah blah. It doesn't pull in on Joseph Cotton, it pulls in on Teresa Ryder or whatever her name is, the actress. Pulls
yeah,
in on her, focuses on her emotion, just how broken her mother is by this news. But you get a little glimpse of Joseph Cotton too, and he's even taken aback by the amount of emotion that she's showing. Um, and I would say, and I'm probably reading the scene wrong, but to me it was like we see a glimpse of him being like, this is my family. What have I done? But he just goes on to try to kill what's her face. So um, that's
I think
probably.
he wants to be like a good family person in a way, but
Mhm.
like he can't help but be taken over by his darker side.
And what is it? Is it because of his? Does it have something to do with his accident? They don't really go back to that. Remember, remember when she comes in with the photo of him? He's like, "I've never been photoed," and then it's like a little boy photo, and she's like, "This was taken the day of your accident." Remember? And he
Mhm.
like almost died or something. He had like a head injury.
Yeah,
They're trying to allude to like that has something to do with his wickedness now.
I mean maybe I didn't quite pick up that that was like implying that, but I mean I think that's a possibility.
Yeah, because they never went back to that. I thought that's what they were trying to set up, but they never mentioned it again. It's kind of weird. It kind of came
Yeah,
out of nowhere. Um, my two biggest nitpicks of this film, two biggest critiques. One would be the whole way they get those detectives in that house, like they're gonna come do a survey,
Yeah.
and they just approach this lady on the street and they're like, "Hey, we're doing surveys for the government. We want to write an article about a typical American family. Can we come to your house?" And they're like, "Sure."
Yeah.
Going like that's a bit much, you know.
I don't know how they did it back in the day. I mean, maybe I don't know if it was exactly like that. Maybe it wasn't, but like maybe they tried to be more like undercover about things. Whereas now, I think you would just walk in and say, "I'm a detective."
Right, I'm a detective. I'm going to snoop around here.
Yeah.
Right, we're
Or
looking for
maybe back
such and
then they were
such.
more sneaky. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this didn't seem like detective work to me. So it seems really weird, but I
I mean,
mean,
maybe
and
it's to
it's
not
obvious.
throw off Charlie, maybe thinking that he would run away if he knew that they were detectives. But
Yeah, and it doesn't fool him for a second. You know, he's
yeah,
like he doesn't even meet the guys, and he's like, "These are cops. Obviously, these are cops. Like nobody does this stuff."
yeah,
And nobody comes to your house and tries to interview you about anything because you're a nobody.
yeah.
So it was just that was bad. That whole sequence to me was odd. And like, did it move the plot along at all? I'm trying to remember.
I mean, just in that things are starting to go awry. Like there's like Charlie the girl is starting to see that there's something wrong here.
Yeah, yeah. And then another one was the whole romance between the detective and Charlie, young Charlie. I mean, I get it that it's the 40s, right? And I mean, things were different back then. But they went on like one date.
Yeah.
They've known each other for like a few days, and the guy's like, "You think one
Would you
day
get
you could
married?
you could marry me?"
Yeah.
She's like, "I don't know."
Well, I feel like in a lot of movies back then, like it was always portrayed that way. Like you would be like somebody on a date, and then they would get married soon. Like I feel like I've seen like a million old movies like that.
One that comes to mind is Roman Holiday with Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn. Is that her name?
Yeah.
Um,
Or
it's Cary
Catherine.
Grant. Is it Cary Grant?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I haven't seen that movie. I know of it, but I haven't seen it.
Roman Holiday. Yeah. Gregory Peck. Wow. Okay, great job, Scott. But Gregory Peck. That movie. She. I mean, just go read my review on Letterboxd. The guy's a scoundrel the whole movie, and she finds out that he's been like using her or something, and then all of a sudden they're in love. Like first he's like using her and she's oblivious, and then she finds out and she hates him. But then it's like and then they start acting like they've been in the deepest of love for years, and they're just unrequited lovers, and
Yeah.
and it's weird. Like the pacing of the romance is weird, and that's how I felt. Well, this wasn't even weird pacing of the romance. This was just like bad. It was not. It was so forced.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like they take it slower. Like in a movie, like you've seen The Crowd, right? The silent film.
Yeah.
Like in that, they go on one date and they are married. Like they're together.
Yeah.
Like just like immediately. I think he proposes to her on the date,
Yeah.
but like he sees like a sign and it's like a house for couples to live in. He's like, maybe we should get married and move into one of these houses,
Yeah.
and it just moves like that. So I don't know. I feel like there was something at the time where like it was more maybe not necessarily on the first date, but like you could ask somebody to marry you like really quickly back
Yeah.
then. So I never think about that. I mean, maybe it is paced strangely, but like I always just chalk it up to the period. But yeah,
Yeah. If y- Do you have any critiques of the film?
not really. I mean, I think it was a little slow at points. I mean, I gave it a 4.5. It's almost like perfect to me, but um, yeah, I don't have too many critiques other than maybe just the pacing and some of the stuff that you've mentioned, like the detectives, their work being sloppy and just strange stuff like that.
Yeah.
But overall, like I love the story and I thought all the acting was really great. Like when it comes to the detectives, I actually liked the detective's line at the end, where he's like, where young Charlie says like, he always said like people like us didn't understand the world, and then he says like, what does he say? He says it's not quite as bad as that, like, but the world goes a little crazy sometimes and needs watching. Or he's like, it goes crazy like your Uncle Charlie. And I don't know. I just thought that line was great. That's where it ends. I
Yeah.
mean, it's kind of cheesy. It's like describing the message of the movie, but I still liked it a lot.
What
But
did you think of the What did you think of the scene where she kills him?
well, I mean, I didn't. I mean, it was perfectly like I didn't think of it as her killing him. I guess. I mean, technically it is, but
Okay,
he's in the middle
that's
of trying to murder her.
right. That's what I meant.
Yeah, but like yeah. But like I like the scene. It reminded me of Irrational Man. That's kind of a random reference, but it's a Woody Allen movie with Joaquin Phoenix. But yeah, I like the scene. I like seeing him get hit by the train.
Yeah. I think
I mean, or go ahead.
Alfred Hitchcock's there in the train. No, that's the first train, I think. When they're playing cards and the doctor, you remember like the guy's all sick and they're like there's a doctor on board, but he's like, I'm on my vacation. And his wife is like, go help the man. Alfred Hitchcock's sitting there playing cards with him.
Yeah, I didn't notice that, but I know he has cameos like in all of his movies almost.
Yeah.
I never noticed them. Sometimes I do, but like they're always like tiny little things where he's just in the background doing something.
Yeah.
I know
Little
like he's had like really strange cameos. Like I think like maybe it was in Rope, but like because he didn't have a chance to have like a cameo like that because it all kind of takes place in one room. But like
Yeah.
I heard that he had, and I haven't seen the movie, but I've heard that he had like a sign in the background, like just like a neon sign that had like his profile, and like it was just some really bizarre choice like that to do a cameo.
That is bizarre. Too bad he didn't do like Stan Lee type things.
Yeah,
He just comes out and says some quippy thing and then walks off.
it is like almost like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I I I love how, and I also enjoy how people, his imagery and his symbolism, people get so excited about it, but they start like trying to see it where in places where it isn't. Like
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if it's him being cryptic or him actually being like you're reading too much into it. Like I listened to an interview with him. First off, he was talking so slowly that you had to speed up the video to 1.25 time for him to sound like he's speaking at a normal pace.
Was this like a
But
Dick Cavett interview?
is it what?
Dick Cavett, do you remember the
No.
host's name? Well, I know there's like
No.
I might have seen the same interview, but I remember him on the Dick Cavett show, like being very old and like talking slowly.
He's taking, and he starts taking phone calls, you know.
Okay.
Like there's a live audience, but then they start taking phone calls, and one of the phone calls they were like, I noticed that you use the symbolism of stairs a lot in your film. Can you explain the significance of that? And he was like, it's my opinion that stairs are good for going up and going down. And then he just like he's like, next caller. Oh, and the person on the phone was like wanting so much more than that, and he's just like, no, I'm not giving you any insight into the stairs. But speaking of stairs, there's a great moment in this movie where it's almost like, oh, there was a movie I just watched that had the same kind of thing going on. Um, oh, it was Unforgiven. I watched Unforgiven, and it was like this anticlimax. Like there's this. It's like a red herring of a climax, or not a climax, of a resolution, where the detectives tell him like they caught the other guy they were chasing, and
Mhm.
so he's off the hook and they're gonna leave him alone, and the music gets all joyful, and he's like, man, what's for dinner? I could sure eat a good dinner tonight. And he's all happy and he's running up the stairs, and then like
Yeah,
the music cuts and he like slowly turns and she's like
yeah,
standing in the doorway, like
yeah,
looking at him all knowingly. That was a great moment.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I
Toward
do. I don't know if Hitchcock has a specific like allegory or something, or like a deep reason why he's using stairs, but he does tend to have some good stair scenes.
Yeah.
Like Psycho is the most obvious one, I think.
Yeah,
But where the guy gets slashed and is falling backwards on the stairs.
it's amazing.
But yeah,
And this movie was missing some of his like. There's no crazy complex murder scene. Like there's just seems like there's always a good murder scene, but
yeah,
not in this
it's
one. At
attempted
least
murder.
attempted murder. Yeah.
I like
Um.
when he tries to suffocate her in the garage with the
Yeah.
car. That's pretty good.
I thought he set up the. I thought he set up the garage door being like a bad garage door and jamming and stuff. I thought he set the audience up for that nicely. Like where they get trapped in there when he's like trying to propose to her or whatever, the
Yeah,
detective is, and they get stuck. I
yeah,
thought that was a pretty smooth setup for later.
yeah, definitely.
I
I was
thought that,
surprised at that point that she wouldn't just come out and like say, like after she's like almost been murdered, she still won't say that he's like done
uh,
this.
dude, yeah, there was a few moments like that where I was like,
But you can
I
always
mean,
chalk it back up to like she just doesn't want her mother to be brokenhearted.
she just loves her mom that much. I mean, come on.
I mean, I don't know if she. I don't know at that time if it was something in the culture, but like you just thought like she would literally die if she found this out.
Yeah.
But which is possible, I guess, but it's very unlikely.
And
But
I don't see that set up very much like either. The like we see the mom get excited about
mm,
him coming, but
yeah,
the young Charlie, she has this whole totally different understanding of her mom's feelings that her mother doesn't really show us. She just talks about it. Young Charlie just alludes to her mother she's going to die if this comes out and blah blah blah. We never
yeah.
really see it from the mom,
Mm.
you know.
And you see her kind of freaking out about when Charlie like falls down the stairs, and she's like, "You could have been killed,"
Yeah.
and just stuff like that. But like, it's not totally like crazy, but it does allude towards that a little bit, I think.
I had I had I thought that it was going to be like the crime novel loving neighbor guy or the smart little bookworm daughter who like exposed him. I really
Yeah.
thought that I really thought the little girl was going to be the one to figure out something and like blow the whole lid off because she's
Was
so
he ever really exposed? Like, I don't know. I don't think he was.
no.
Yeah. Unless, like, by the end they just know because he's at the funeral. But you still, like, they never show that. So you could just assume that they just think he died.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was
She
wondering, like, when she gets killed, or not when she almost gets killed at the end, I was wondering, because you just saw the kids, like the bookworm girl and stuff. Like, are they not seeing all this? Where did they go?
I think they got off the train.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think they got off and she was following behind, but he's like, "Wait, Charlie,
Yeah.
I have to kill you."
Yeah.
I gave it 3 stars. I mean,
Yeah.
the it was it was entertaining
Mhm.
and I would probably watch it again.
I would. I mean, not like immediately, but I would definitely watch it down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to mention is I really like the guy, like that weird neighbor guy you mentioned, and the dad, how they would just like talk about murder,
Yeah.
like back and forth.
Yeah.
And then the daughter would get super offended because she's going through all this stuff with Uncle Charlie, and then they be talking about murder, and she's like, "Why do you have to talk about such things?"
Yeah.
I thought that was a interesting scene.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, I could always poison your. Or he's always like, I could always wear gloves, strangle you. There's all these crazy weird things, and the mother's just like, it's just how your father relaxes.
Yeah, yeah, that was a good line.
Like it's your father's way of relaxing.
To talk about murder.
Like okay, well,
I think
that's
that just sets up kind of nicely that there is like something darker in human nature that like these people like in this small town don't want to confront like certain people, but it is
hmm
there anyway. I like that on it. I love the movie, but yeah, for me, it's a 4.5 out of 5.
Well, any closing thoughts on the film?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's in the upper echelon of his stuff, I think, for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I had a great time watching it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Me
thanks.
too.
Thanks for watching it with me.
You're welcome. I'm looking forward to the next.
Yeah, I don't. I don't know if you want to go back and like review like sometime like an older one we already watched. We could just do that, or we could like watch a new one. But
Yeah, we should watch something new.
yeah,
Like Sullivan's Travels. Don't you have that on Criterion?
yeah, I have the Blu-ray of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd definitely be a good one.
Have you seen it?
No, not yet.
Me
Yeah.
either.
Anyway, I'll wrap up the video here, but yeah, thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.